Tachyon and the 1E platform are basically being combined to give organizations the capability that they need to run modern infrastructures. Tachyon is a real-time, always connected solution. You can interact with that any endpoint in your organization at any point that they're connected, even if they're only connected via the internet. What we're going to do today is actually focus in on the users. In a pandemic, that's our focus point. We want to make sure that our users are able to work. So what we've got inside Experience is a view of the world based on our employees. And what we've built is also giving a perspective of whether they can work in a collaborative way while they're at home. So here we can see in this dashboard, we give an experience score of how the endpoint is actually performing. We rate whether they can actually do the work or whether they're able to work well. Based on some of these calculations, we can tell you whether, what the reasons are. So have they got all the collaboration tools that they need to be doing that? So things like Teams, Skype, Zoom, WebEx. Also the connectivity. So a lot of traffic is coming directly via that VPN because management technology is typically only implemented via that LAN or VPN. So what happens when devices are offline or off corporate network but connected to the internet? We'll have a look at that as well. So let's dive into some of the users that are having problems. So here we can see Anika, and Anika's having some problems. It shows us here that one of the things that she's having problems with is she doesn't have Teams installed. So we'll come back to Anika in a few minutes. What we can also do in Experience is actually go top down, so have a whole enterprise and actually go down and find the issues that are causing problems to either one or multiple users. And we do that via this Experience score. So Experience scores is made up of several categories. I'll quickly explain what each one of these are. So these categories are containers of tests that we're doing in the environment. So stability is a score based on the crashiness of the operating system, the applications where they're hanging. Responsiveness is the synthetic transactions, as well as doing things like looking at boot time, making sure that the device is responsive from the point it boots all the way through to application stability, and also running these synthetic transactions so that you can see very easily what's impacting the end user and also do some root cause analysis on that. And finally, we have the performance score. So these are traditional metrics that we look at in performance, so high CPU, high queue length, that type of thing. So as we go through this sort of experience tree, we can go down to a lower level. And here we're looking at a dashboard that I've created to really look at all of the metrics that have been calculated within this score. So that as an admin, I can visually see what's happening. And maybe seeing this bad downtrend on a particular thing, and I can drill into that information and find out what's happening. So let me drill in. And now we're down at either a group of devices or a single device. And actually we can see over the course of the last few days, actually this device has been having a lot of issues. So let's go down into that device. So now we're down at the actual endpoint itself, and we're looking at what's causing that issue. So we're continuously running these synthetic transactions that don't interfere with the user, but give us an insight of how the operating system is responding to the typical requests that applications are giving the operating system. So here we can see that the create process time is abnormally low or slow, so that we can now focus on that. What's happening on that endpoint? So as we go further into this, I can click through and actually have the context of what's happening on that endpoint and see what's happening across not just these metrics, but also things that are happening. So the crash events that are happening, is there anything correlating? The install events, what's installed over time? Has that caused an impact to the performance of the endpoint? And we get that information via logs. So we continuously get event information. So things like installed, uninstalled events, application hangs, crash events, so that we can correlate that data over time. But one of the real powers of Tachyon is that we give this great view, holistic view of the environment. But we can also go out and interact with the device in real time. So now this is an application that we call Explorer. It's designed to give IT admins the ability to interact with either one device or their entire device in real time to get an answer. So what we're just going to do with this one device that we had problems on is just go and have a look at the processor workload over the last 24 hours. So when I click ask this question, what happens? This goes out to that endpoint, runs some diagnostic or some queries on the endpoints, and that information will be coming back in real time back to this console. So I can see here that there's some things that are causing issues on that endpoint. So the big culprit, it looks like here, is NTFS from scratch. So if there's a known thing that's causing issues with our employees, I have an option here to do one of two things. I can either raise this as a ServiceNow ticket, which from a process point of view, I will do, but I can also remediate it immediately by running a follow-up action. So what I can do is actually just kill that process in real time. So I can go out and kill NTFS from scratch. So what I'm going to do here is actually start the process of making a change on that endpoint. So even though I'm an admin, a global admin in this environment, I can't make that change on my own. So we have a layer of protection. So the first layer is actually making sure that I'm authenticated. That then starts the process of actually having a second pair of eyes to then approve my change before it goes live in the environment. So as I spoke about actually having a process around this type of thing and having a service desk in place. So as we saw earlier, Anika was having problems with Teams not being installed in her environment. So let's go and have a look at what the service desk would typically do. So the first thing, let's go and search for Anika. And let's see if we've got a ticket for Anika here. And we've got a ticket. So Anika has raised a ticket. So she's saying there's an error with Software Center. She can't actually install Teams. So let's go and have a look at what that might look like for a user. So down at an endpoint, I'm going to try and replicate what Anika's seeing. So Anika's having a problem. She gets an error on screen. She can't actually get the software that she wants. So the service desk traditionally would have been, talking to Anika, asking us some information about, can you pass me some log files, doing some investigation, or potentially having to remote desktop or use other remote tools to actually get to that endpoint. But what we've built into ServiceNow on top of utilizing the 1E platform and Tachyon is the ability to actually go and investigate at the level 1 team. So level 1, typically their first course of action, if they don't know what the short description means, is going to search the knowledge base to see whether someone else has had this issue and is there a remediation that we know. So let's go and have a look at what's in the knowledge base. So the knowledge base, typical stuff that they see, the issue, and then it says how to investigate. So basically it's saying here that utilize the integration in the search bar to actually go and type in check WMI. So it's a known issue, and let's go and see what happens. So check WMI. We've got one to check the repository state. So let's go and run that instruction. So that looks very similar to what I had in my knowledge base. So let's just confirm that. I'm good. I've confirmed it's the same issue. Now, if I give my level 1 guys the ability to fix things, which obviously increase efficiency in the service desk, we can fix this at the same time. So the fix is very simple. All we need to type in is fix WMI and choose the right instruction to run. So, yeah, it said that it's fixed WMI. So the first interaction that the service desk has with Anika is, we've fixed your issue, can you please try again? Rather than what could have been several hours investigation or disruption to Anika while this issue was being fixed. So run it, we get Software Center open, it's loading, and Anika will be able to then go and do her job. So that's great. We've been able to fix Anika very fast in that scenario. So one of the aspects that we spoke a little bit about was about compliance and being able to ensure that the endpoint is in a state that we want it to be in as an IT team. So what we have inside Tachyon is a feature called Guaranteed State, and Guaranteed State is an event-based, rules-based engine that allows us to set and make sure our endpoints are compliant in real time. And the best way to demonstrate that is I've got access to the Windows firewall, but I'm at home and I want to try and get out to a resource that from a personal point of view, I just want to see a website, browse some news that I'm being blocked from my corporate device. So I'm an admin on this device, so I'm going to go and turn off Windows Defender. But what we've just seen there is that I've been able to switch it off, but immediately Guaranteed State has been able to detect from the operating system that that change happened and put the state back to what we want as an IT team. So absolutely no opportunity for me to get to that website that I want to get to. So another example of this and a great usage of this is actually when we define that we want to stop some execution on the endpoint. And in the sort of modern pandemic world, actually everybody's using more and more collaboration tools, in particular things like Zoom. And as we might have seen in the news, Zoom is having some security issues and some trust issues at the moment. So as an organization, I've decided that I want to block Zoom. So what we have in Guaranteed State is a rule that's going to block Zoom. So I've got Zoom on my desktop. When I actually run Zoom, I've just double clicked. What's happening in the background, we've detected that Zoom process has started. We've stopped that process. We've uninstalled Zoom, And now we're notifying the user that they're out of compliance and basically use another collaboration tool like Teams, Cisco, or Google Hangouts. So that's sort of taken us to automation at the endpoint, which is really cool. The next level, and actually giving a bit more control to the end user, is something that's also of interest to a lot of people. So what we have here is a couple of scenarios I'm going to go through of how the end user can help themselves when they want to make a change or having issues with the environment. So the first one of these is a VPN. So I'm at home, I'm trying to get to a corporate resource. I go into my VPN and actually there's nothing configured. Someone might have changed something and I can't actually connect. So how can we help in ServiceNow? So ServiceNow, I could have obviously raised a ticket to get someone at the support desk to do this, but I'm going to try and do it myself. So we have access to ServiceNow, and here I can just simply type in VPN issues or whatever, some natural language that I can type into the chatbot, and the chatbot will give me some options to actually then go and look for. So the first thing that we have is we've got a ServiceNow workflow in the back end that's integrated with Tachyon. So the first thing is the workflow detects where I am, and I can do this from my phone. I used to do this quite a lot from my phone and interact with my desktop, but this is the device I'm on at the moment. So what's happening in the background is Tachyon instruction going out over that real-time channel down to the endpoint and actually making a configuration change. And we now have VPN configured on this device. And what you'll see when he does is that he tells us that we've successfully created that VPN, and we've got some instructions of how now to then do the next step. So I go through those process and I say, actually, yep, that resolved my issue. Thank you very much. I had some good service today. So we're also getting that feedback from the user. The next one, and it really plays into the sort of performance angle, is that I'm at home and actually my PC is running slow. So slow PC. So this is a slightly different angle. What's happening now when we go through this workflow is we're actually doing some diagnostics at the endpoint, and we'll return those results to give some suggestions about what might be causing the issue on my endpoint. So this takes a few seconds just to go out to that endpoint, across that real-time channel, to query the endpoint for some information about what might be causing me some performance issues, and then it will tell me the 4 or 5 things that it recommends that I do to be able to then continue with my work. So the first thing it's saying is actually I've got a critical reboot pending, but this is really key from a security point of view and a patch compliant point of view. Having a device that's not rebooted regularly can be a real vulnerability to the organization. Or actually, this is an interesting one, that there's a power plan, and I'm not using the high performance power plan. So I've got my power plans here. So keep an eye on this side of the screen because this happens very quickly. So what I'm going to do is click on the ServiceNow. Again, across that real time down to the operating system. The operating system will interact with that and has made that change in probably less than 5 seconds. So from an experience point of view, as a user, I've been able to improve my performance. I'm now in a higher performance state. I should be getting better performance. So yep, today I'm happy. That's helped me with my performance issue. I can have a look at other things that I want to do, potentially if I wanted to do some further investigation, or I can simply just close the incident. So just wanted to summarize a few pieces. So what we've basically seen is the ability for an organization to basically identify employees that are having difficulty working across the entire estate, regardless of the location. We've been able to look at proactively identifying those responsive issues. We've been able to look at actually what's the endpoint doing at this moment in time and seeing the processes. We've been able to look at how we've improved the performance of the service desk and also reducing that user disruption. We've ensured the compliance of that endpoint so that it's always at a position that we want, which will obviously have a positive impact on the performance of that endpoint because it's always in a known state. And finally, we saw how we were able to enable the users to fix some of their own problems, reducing the number of tickets that actually get raised into the service desk. So over to Oni.
Great. Thanks so much, Adrian.